Malawi calls itself the warm heart of Africa. But that heart has been heavy, affected by HIV and AIDS. Malawi has one of the 10 highest rates of HIV infection in the world.
My husband died of AIDS, and I am HIV positive.
About 12% of all Malawian adults are infected with HIV. But even those who are not infected cannot ignore the impact that HIV and AIDS are having on every aspect of life in Malawi, including the loss of agricultural workers and the resulting increase in poverty and malnutrition.
You see families now are spending a lot of time attending to their sick loved ones or attending funerals, or they are sick themselves, so that there's nobody to go out and till the land.
As part of the quest to improve food and nutrition security, the UN Food and Agriculture Organization has been working with governments and other partners for 20 years to mitigate the impact of HIV and AIDS on the agricultural sector. But this cannot be done without acknowledging another factor, that of inequality between men and women. Mary Mangola is one of the faces behind the HIV and AIDS epidemic. Mary lives in a rural village in southern Malawi. She, her husband, and her 15-month-old son all are HIV positive. And although Mary has tried to avoid getting pregnant again, she says her husband doesn't cooperate.
I really wanted to avoid getting pregnant again, and the doctor advised against it. But the problem is my husband. When we have sexual relations, he says he's going to use a condom, but then he doesn't. So here I am, pregnant again.
There are a number of drivers that are fueling the epidemic. Amongst them is this issue of unprotected sex between men and women, particularly, casual sex as well as concurrent partnerships. Then we have our own cultural issues, and the gender balance between men and women is impacting negatively on the women than on the men. About 56% of those living with HIV are women. And when we look at the age bracket, 15 to 24, there are 4 times more girls that are infected with HIV than boys of the same age group. So it's affecting more girls.
Just as social and economic differences between men and women influence the spread of HIV, they also can limit a woman's capacity to produce food and income, to maintain a nutritious diet, to protect and own personal farmland and other property, and to conserve natural resources. This, in turn, puts the entire community at a disadvantage. Mary Mangola's son Yanko developed malnutrition. He spent 3 weeks recovering in this Nutrition Rehabilitation Unit, or NRU, in the district of Balaka.
In 2005-2004, we noted that 54% of all the malnourished children admitted in the Nutrition Rehabilitation Units were HIV positive. There is a very close link between food production, malnutrition, HIV, and AIDS.
While providing care and high-protein mixes to undernourished kids, the NRUs have gone a step further with the help of FAO and funding from the governments of South Africa and Spain. FAO began a training project for children's parents, showing them how to cultivate vegetables and provide the food variety needed for better nutrition. FAO then gave them seeds and tools to start their own gardens at home. It made a difference for Esnatim Chiwi's grandson.
Just saying that the vegetables are really improving the health of the the kid who was admitted at the NRIU tremendously. And also, the vegetables also improving the health of the newly born baby.
Not all children have this kind of support. The AIDS pandemic is destroying the basic fabric of the Malawian family, leaving children especially vulnerable to poverty and exploitation.
Malawi estimates about 1.2 million orphans, and 45% of those orphans are due to HIV and AIDS. So indeed, there's a growing crop or a growing population of orphans. This is again a secondary epidemic that we are seeing in the country, not only in Malawi, but in this part of Africa.
The fabrics of extended family are getting weaker and weaker. Hence, we see orphans and orphanages.
Before, we didn't have street children, but today we have. What will be the future? How can we assist them?
Maggie Hara is an orphan from a rural village. She was abandoned before being brought to a rehabilitation home in Lilongwe. When Maggie's grandmother could no longer care for her, she moved to the capital with her uncle. Maggie says her uncle sexually abused her, left her pregnant, and then her aunt kicked her out of the house when she found out about the abuse. Maggie miscarried after 7 months of pregnancy. She was 14 at the time. Maggie is in a safe place for now, but social workers say girls like her are doubly vulnerable to the effects of HIV and AIDS. An orphan and a female, she is at higher risk of poverty, malnutrition, and circumstances that could lead to HIV infection or make it difficult to stay healthy if infected. If Maggie and her generation are to escape the vicious cycle of poverty and HIV infection, it will be vital for them to acquire agricultural knowledge, valuable life skills, gender-equal attitudes, and the confidence to make a living.
Malawi is largely dependent on agriculture for its general livelihood. And we feel that there has to be a succession plan and there has to be transfer of knowledge from the older cadres to the younger ones to realize that for them to thrive and for them to continue and sustain their livelihoods, they should have some elements in terms of knowledge of agriculture.
FAO, with funding from South Africa and Spain, is tackling the vulnerability of orphans and other children, preparing them to become more self-reliant in the future. The Junior Farmer Field and Life Schools initiative aims to empower children from affected communities by giving them the agricultural and life skills that under normal circumstances they would receive from their parents and other relatives. These school-based programs are designed to give vulnerable youths hands-on training in all aspects of farming, from land preparation to harvesting, while improving their nutrition. Students also learn how to process crops for food and income, and how to use their creative skills to make other products that can be sold at the market. The children also learn to develop their own educational tools, theatrical skits like this one on HIV and AIDS, which they can then perform for their own community, sharing the skills they've learned. The combination of both practical and creative life skills helps to build their identity and personal confidence, qualities that are harder to come by now that children are losing so many adult role models.